What is happening, baby? Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Huddle presented by the Huddle Chat Sports Network. Today, we are giving you a quick, clear, and concise episode where we discuss all of the top streaming options, all the top stash options that you can have before we get to the startups and sit-ems for this weekend, before we get into the trade targets heading in to the trade deadline, before we get into all the moving and shaking. I know it's still a lot of time left in fantasy football yet this season, so now is the time to capitalize on those other idiots in your fantasy football league. So like I said, today we are going to be discussing some of those very important the streamer ads, the must add players, the deep stash players for some of you in the deeper leagues. Really, most likely, we're getting through all those buy-mageddons. A lot of you, hopefully, are getting on the other side better than you were when you left into that buy-mageddon last week. We do still have a few bye weeks going on this week, starting out with the Cleveland Browns, the New York Jets, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, with that being said, there's not going to be a ton of missing options as there was last week, but we still have quite a few missing players than we did last week. So what we really want to do is we want to dive into some of the players that whether it comes to injury, for whatever reason, whatever it is that we're talking about these players for, we're going to get into discussing those right now. So let's get things cracked off right. First things first, as we always like to do in this episode, I want to talk about those players that should at this point pretty much already be rostered. Those players are going to be pretty easy to go through this week. You're looking at Tyrone Tracy, Kyle Monangai, Tyjae Spears as far as the running backs go. The last few weeks, we've talked about Kyle Monangai. We've talked about Tyjae Spears, but I mean, I don't know about you guys, but we've all pretty much just about given up on Tyrone Tracy until that Cam Scatterbo god-awful injury. Prayers up with Cam Scatterbo. But anyway, you're looking at Tyrone Tracy being back to relevancy this week, and you have the exact opposite of what you had at the beginning of the year. You have job security for Tyrone Tracy. So Tyrone Tracy should already be rostered. If somebody wasn't smart enough in your league to grab him ahead of time as a handcuff to Cam Scatterbo, because we also saw how he was running, then you're looking at Tyrone Tracy potentially being available out there for you right now. And then at wide receivers, we still are looking at the same two we've been talking about, Wan'Dale Robinson, Christian Watson. At this point, when it comes to the wide receiver position, we don't want to spend too much of our capital. We don't want to spend too much time because there are so many different wide receivers, and it's so hard to judge which ones are going to be consistent. Consistency is going to be the key when it comes to these waiver wire wide receivers, and we're not going to be able to guarantee that out of a lot of those waiver wire wide receivers. Now, going into the top ad at tight end, really the only important tight end we really want to talk about this week that we haven't been talking about over the past few weeks. If you've missed out, of course, we're talking out on the Mason Taylor, the Cade Ottons. Those players may still be available in your league for whatever reason, but Colston Loveland right now should be available in your league. You're looking at him being 8% rostered in your fantasy, in most fantasy football leagues. I recommend if you do have to spend fab on him to spend 5 to 10% on Colston Loveland. You're looking at him assuming an every down role when it comes to the Chicago Bears offense with Cole Kmet being out. You're looking at him being an athletic after the catch tight end, and you're looking at the Chicago Bears drafting him in that top 10 position for a reason. You're looking at Colston Loveland being a person that's going to have the Cincinnati Bengals this week, who typically have struggled this season and going into last season against the tight end. Honestly, you're looking at Colston Loveland being a potential top 10 tight end for your fantasy football roster this week. So he's somebody that I would definitely go out and add while I have the ability to add him. Now, moving on to the running backs that we want to talk about adding, we're going to be talking about Isaiah Davis first and foremost. Of course, we talked about Tyrone Tracy with the injury already. Now you're looking at Isaiah Davis. There's been a lot of rumors about Breece Hall being moved by the trade deadline, one of which being him being moved to the Los Angeles Chargers, which would be a very interesting move for both sides of that coin. Isaiah Davis, he has already started to get his own complimentary role with Breece Hall being playing. You're looking at Isaiah Davis still getting some carries. You're looking at Isaiah Davis currently being on the bye, so he's going to have a chance to go unnoticed and give you that chance to grab him without having to spend any fab, any capital on it. You're looking at him having 109 yards and 5 catches in his last game out. He's a crucial stash who really could become a running back one, whether Breece Hall misses time or he gets moved to another team. Now, Tank Bigsby from the Philadelphia Eagles, we're looking at Tank Bigsby. We all know, if you've played fantasy football before, we know how exciting Tank Bigsby is as a prospect. But you're also looking at the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles, if you didn't watch it, you're looking at Saquon Barkley coming out of that last game with a groin injury. Now, I do know the Philadelphia Eagles are on a bye this week, so this is more or less a precautionary thing. But you're looking at Tank Bigsby, whether you have Saquon Barkley or whether you just want to steal it and have a potential top running back whenever you come back from that bye week and see Saquon Barkley maybe going down, Tank Bigsby is definitely going to be worth an addition. You're looking at him grabbing over 100 yards last week. And you really just have the sheer league winning upside if Saquon Barkley misses any time at all. Then you got Biashal Tootin from the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Tank Bigsby replacement. He's a true deep stash, really. I'm not worrying about him if I'm in a league that's less than 12 men. You're looking at the Jaguars coming off the bye this week. He's potentially carving out a bigger role with Travis Etienne. Being the lead running back for the second half of the season as the Jacksonville Jaguars continue to get things moving and shaking and surprise people with how good they have been this season. Moving on into the wide receivers we want to talk about this week. There's a lot more wide receivers. As I've said, there's wide receivers everywhere. You don't want to necessarily waste too much of your capital on that wide receiver position. With the wide receivers, you're looking at Alec Pierce for the Indianapolis Colts. He's the field stretcher for the Indianapolis Colts. He's a great addition because he gets a fantastic matchup this week with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have struggled terribly at defending the deep ball. You're looking at him leading the Colts in air yard share and is primed to have a huge week this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's a perfect streamer for week 9 if you need a wide receiver. Jalen Noel, we talked about him last week. He's a speculative ad. He's only 9% rostered, but Jalen Noel had a pretty damn decent game last week after we called him out on this exact episode. So might be the time to start paying attention to Jalen Noel, or at least paying attention to what we talk about here on the Huddle Chat Sports Network. Again, I cannot thank y'all enough for all your attention, all the tuning in that you've been doing, and all of the likes I've been getting. Thank y'all so much for smashing that like button. It has so much more of an impact than y'all actually realize. If you guys haven't yet, if you're new to the channel, make sure that you hit the subscriptions bar as well as that notifications bell, because you never want to miss a beat when it comes to those idiots on your fantasy football league. Just like you might have missed out on Jalen Noel last week if you weren't already a part of the subscription community here in the Fantasy Football Huddle with the Huddle Chat Sports Network. Now, of course, we talked about Christian Watson earlier in the episode. He's going to be another good speculative ad for you. And you got Jamari DK from Tennessee. You're looking at him being a person that is definitely on the rise. You're looking at Jamari DK getting heavily involved in last week's game. He's a very deep league flex option. His role is trending up, and he has a 70-yard plus performance in the last 2 games back to back. If you're battling injuries, if you're battling bye weeks, Jamari DK might be somebody you can plug and play and be happy with the outcome of what you get. And then Troy Franklin, another wide receiver we've talked about last week. He's rostered still in under 40% of leagues, and he has that big play vertical speed. If you're adding him for that chance, that he does break a long one. He's kind of touchdown or bust, but you are seeing him get more involved in this offense. So I would not be surprised down the line to see him getting an increase in his target share when it comes to this Denver Broncos offense. Now, moving on to the next few players that we want to talk about, the rest of this episode is going to be pretty easy. When it comes to the quarterback ads at this point, most of these quarterbacks are going to be streamer ads. You're looking at Sam Darnold with Seattle, Jackson Dart with the Giants being more long-term options. You might even be able to slide Joe Flacco into that more long-term option. We need to see a little bit more from Kyler Murray before we really start banking on him being long-term at this point. I barely trust him as a streamer. And then Trevor Lawrence coming off the bye week. I mean, you guys cannot hate with how good Trevor Lawrence has actually been playing this season. To be honest with you guys, I think Trevor Lawrence has been one of the most surprising players of the season. I know we're in a season where we have players like Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts taking the league by storm, but you're looking at Trevor Lawrence going almost unnoticed because of how big that Indianapolis Colts team and Daniel Jones has been. But Trevor Lawrence has been one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy football. Can he keep it going? We shall see coming out of the bye week, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them scheme up some more fun plays for this offense with Jacksonville. It's going to be explosive, hopefully, and hopefully they can continue to go on the same trend they've been going on. Hopefully you can continue to go on the trend of winning your fantasy football weeks, starting with these episodes. I know I haven't been as reliable on some of these episodes as I have been in previous seasons. However, a lot of things going on in life, guys, but we are getting right back into things. I'm never going to leave you guys stranded, high and dry. I got your back here over at the Fantasy Football Huddle. But that's going to do it for me here today at the Fantasy Football Huddle with the Huddle Chat Sports Network. Make sure, as always, you keep your chin up and your attitude down. I'm going to see y'all next time. Peace out.